It's official. Red Bull have lost it, man. Like, Red Bull have fully lost the plot. What the hell? Actually, I heard the rumors about this and I slightly addressed them in my Chinese Grand Prix debrief video if you want to watch that. I was like, no way. No way. 2 races, no way. And it's happened. Liam Lawson is out of the Red Bull. He would go back to the Racing Bulls. And Yuki Tsunoda is finally promoted to the Red Bull car, but like at what cost? To everyone involved, including him, like at what cost? I obviously have a lot of thoughts. I apologize that this video is later than I wanted it to be. School's been busy, but it's ending soon. 2 weeks from now I'm filming this, I'll be done school. So much more videos coming to you then. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I think the time has low-key given me some time to reflect. I also listened to Liam Lawson's podcast episode he did with Beyond the Grid, which came out earlier this month, that I think gives some interesting insight that I wanted to point on. So let's get into everything. We'll talk about Lawson out, Yuki in, what this means for each of them, what it means for Red Bull. We're going to start with Liam Lawson out and being demoted to the V carb. This is just like incredibly too soon. Like 2 races is actually nowhere near enough time, especially considering it is on two circuits he's never raced on, which like sure you can say like you should be able to race on every circuit, and that's true, but we'll touch on that a bit more in a second. There's like a reason I think he would do worse on circuits he's never been at before, specifically especially with the Red Bull. So 2 circuits that he's never raced on, and 2 frankly very distinct circuits that are not similar to most of the other tracks that we have. It's literally just not fair. It doesn't even compute to me. I actually have like been trying to understand why they would do this from the like why Liam would be knocked out as opposed to why Yuki would be promoted, and I just can't understand why they would kick Liam out this quickly. Like it any reason why they would come from like serious leadership issues, which I think they have regardless. But in that case, I think it's their fault for like putting Liam in this situation to begin with. Like obviously they've had a series of that seat hasn't been stable since Daniel was there. Like every single person they've put in it hasn't, like bar Checo for like a year or two, hasn't performed the way that they should be performing in that car. I'm not sure why they weren't taking that seriously as an issue. That's like an issue like partly in driver selection, but also like indicative of issues with the car that we'll talk about later that they just like refused to address because it was working for Max until it wasn't. But like I honestly cannot understand why they would move Liam out. I like he really wasn't given a fair shot. Let's start with that. He wasn't given a fair shot. We talked about how the 2 tracks he was experienced on were not fair. The first weekend obviously is going to be difficult, and then it was raining. Then you go to Shanghai and it's a fucking sprint. Sorry for cussing, but like it was a sprint. How many, like this dude has had how many FP1 sessions? Like actually not even the 4 he should have. He'd missed a couple because of like issues with the car. Like seriously, what the hell? I'm like angry because actually like what? So from that perspective, obviously too soon. The fact that next track is Suzuka. Like basically every other track after these are tracks he's been at. And Suzuka especially, he came from Super Formula. He's raced at Suzuka how many times? Let him like see how he goes there. Like, and of course on that same perspective it's like unfortunate because Suzuka is like Yuki's home track, so like that you can understand that perspective. But like when you also think of it like dude, he's like one of like Suzuka, he if he went to Suzuka and did horribly, that would like, and you then you wanted to call it after 3 races, I actually would understand that much more because again he's practiced at Suzuka. If he's there and he just can't perform in the Red Bull, then I think it's fair to drop him, but at the same time that would be indicative again of serious issues with the car, serious issues with the drivability, and so to not even give him that chance is awful. I also just don't expect, it goes back to this, I really don't expect anyone to be better in that car. Obviously they haven't been. Like slightly better, maybe just from the fact that anybody else really has been more experienced than him, though that's not necessarily true. I don't know. But like I don't know. Like Yuki might be a bit better just again because he has more experience. But like I think Liam could have gone up to that point. What I think it comes down to, the only reasonable thing I understand is confidence. And we're going to talk about confidence for a second here before we kind of get back to the point I'm kind of hinting at here. So this goes back to the episode of Beyond the Grid he was on, and they talked about confidence a lot, which I found interesting because the issue people have been having with him is like an ego issue. They feel like his egos are far too big, and then you see his performance and you're like, and to an extent I get that. I even commented on that in my Chinese Grand Prix video. But I think you've got to be like delusional to be able to drive that car, and I think Liam kind of knew that. He was saying that it's very like clearly a difficult car to drive. He went in knowing drivability was difficult and it was going to be harder to drive than the Racing Bull. And Max has said that. I think like there's been the conversation that the Racing Bull is objectively the easier car to drive, and so from that perspective you can get more speed from it because you know how to work the thing. If you can get the Red Bull working, it's theoretically faster. I don't know if that's true anymore though, to be honest. I think we might have just like gone off a cliff with it, which again we'll come back to, where it's like nobody can drive it, even Max is struggling. But he mentioned in that episode that the reason why Max can drive that car is because he has confidence. Something else interesting that I think is interesting I want to bring up. I can't remember his name. The host of that podcast, and he is like the main media guy for F1 and for like the press sessions that they do. He is the host, Tom Clarkson. He mentioned that he did an interview with a previous world champion that we will get later in this season as a podcast, and he said that he watched Max and it seems like he just like knows what's happening with the car faster than anybody else. He can tell what the car is going to do half a second before anybody else can, which I think is interesting. But you only get to that point from confidence, and of course like Max is the one that's most experienced in that car. He knows it better than anybody else, but the reason he's able to do these things is because he trusts his ability and he trusts the car's ability enough that he's like willing to like throw it into corners and like make it work. And the issue with everybody else has been, to a certain extent, a confidence issue. Checo lost confidence. Well, the car declined. Checo lost confidence and then was shot. You weren't getting anything out of that. Pierre lost confidence. Alex Albon lost confidence. And so I think Liam went in knowing that he needed to like have some sort of delusional confidence to even attempt to drive the thing. And I think he wasn't even letting himself think that it wouldn't work out, because I think if you let yourself think it's not going to work out, it won't. And like once you start getting into your head about something, it's just not going to happen. And actually he kind of like hinted that that's something that he's maybe a bit prone to. He mentioned the issue with the drink tube he had in his first race, and he couldn't drink because it like got up his nose and it was a big deal during his first race, and then he kind of like refused to use the drink tube because it messed him up. And I think he knows he's like he can lean that way, and so he just refused to let himself think he wouldn't be able to drive the car. And I understand. I think that's a fair assumption to make, because if again, like if you think you won't be able to, you just won't. It won't happen. And apparently what things I've been hearing is that he started to lose some of that confidence already very quickly. His demeanor apparently started to go downhill, and so I think that could have been a reason why they knocked him down, because I think even Christian Horner said like trying to like preserve him or keep him protected in some way. And on a surface level, you're like, well, how the hell does this protect him? Like, I think this is a huge knock to the confidence, and it is, and I do believe that. But at the same time, like it's obviously a dire situation already. I think it could have gone one more race. I think it could have gone to Japan, and we could have seen then. But I can also understand how it would already be a dire situation if what we're hearing about his confidence being knocked already is true. Because if it's at that point, you just have to like, is the knockdown a worse knock to the confidence than just not being able to perform the whole season? Maybe. It could go either way. So from that perspective, I do understand why they wouldn't knock him down, because maybe he does go to V-Carb and he performs, and that potentially saves his career. But I don't know if that can happen. I think I think we might have fucked him. I think Yuki could be like screwed as well at this point. I think they're all kind of screwed. And I think Red Bull has put them in the situation, and we'll get back to that. But I think there's a lot of trust broken within Red Bull entirely. And I'm not sure how you bounce back from that from a bigger picture, which we'll get into later. But especially for Liam, I think if he goes and he has, you know what, actually, I think he could go and have a good weekend. He knows the V carb. He's driven it before. He's been to Suzuka before. Has he been to Suzuka in the V carb? I actually think he might have. Or maybe that was just before he switched over last year. I can't remember. But I think there's a chance for him to come back confidence-wise. I'm still not sure career-wise. I don't know who else could pick him up after this year. I don't know what his contract looks like. And Isaac Hatter's performing well. I don't know. Like, this big picture, I don't know where we go from here, which we'll get into it later. Let's move on to Yuki now, because I guess I'm grateful he's finally getting his shot, but it's like not because they wanted him there by any means. It's like I also think this, so many thoughts. I don't anticipate him to do much better. Again, he is just a more experienced driver in general. I think he has more confidence in it, like real confidence in himself, than the maybe delusional confidence Liam had to like put on himself to attempt to do anything. And so I think he could be successful in that sense, but not by much more than Liam. And another factor is that like Yuki knows the V carb. Yuki knows how to drive it. He knows how to extract whatever performance he wants out of it, and he's been able to do that. Liam has had a more mixed background, but he has done much more testing in the Red Bull than Yuki has. I think Liam actually knows the Red Bull much more than Yuki does. But Yuki maybe knows the V carb, obviously knows the V carb more than Liam does. So that's just like something to consider. But I think this could seriously kill Yuki's career if he doesn't go in and like knocks it out of the park, which I don't anticipate him to do, because I think the car is like undrivable, seriously. I think this could kill his career. I was mentioning this, I think, in the Chinese GP video a little bit. He needs to like perform this year, because apparently Honda has said, hey, we don't have any strings to pull for you next year. You've got to figure out your own seat next year. And if that's the case, I think if he stayed at the V carb and he kept performing how he would for sure get a spot somewhere. Could be a Cadillac, could be somewhere else. I don't know, but I was confident he'd find somewhere. If he goes to the Red Bull and doesn't perform, and it just looks like he's not performing, people aren't gonna like remember what he did. Assuming his confidence stays intact in any sense, which it might not. It really could not. If he goes there and just bombs, as I kind of expect him to, and that's not. I think Yuki's a great driver. Again, this is not a commentary on him, it's a commentary in the car. He could just lose his confidence in it. That could kill his career as is. But even if he keeps some semblance of that and he could keep having a career, I think when you're not performing well, especially when you're beside Max, like Max is always going to knock everybody out the park. I don't think people are going to like, team principals are going to have enough, are going to be able to think big enough picture to consider what he did in previous machinery. I think if you're performing badly and you're looking badly, people are going to think you're driving badly. They're not going to, like, recency bias is a thing. They're not going to remember way back last year when you were performing well in a different car. Like, that's not going to be, I'd be surprised if people, like, actually considered that. So, I'm concerned that this is the beginning of the end for Yuki if he doesn't knock it out of the park. And again, I don't think he will. And again, not on him. It's the car. So in some ways, this kind of feels like sabotage. I know it's not. I think really what it is that Liam was losing confidence. They weren't impressed, which, like, why would they be? But also, why would they expect any better? And Honda said, hey, we want our driver in the best car he can be, in the flashiest car he can be for his home Grand Prix and our home Grand Prix. We'll give you some money to move him up. And I think that's what did it, which I'm also hearing rumblings of. But like again, like we said, Red Bull are just lost. Like, we've lost the plot. And that is because the car is just, I think we've hit a point. I just don't think it's drivable. They've all said it's very difficult to drive. Even Max has said, like, it's not that, like, Checo just forgot how to drive in his last year, the car just became undrivable. Even you go back years, Alex Albon has said that. He said, like, even the car isn't developed for Max. They make the fastest car they can, and when you do that, it becomes very difficult to drive. It's like if you're playing a video game and sensitivity is up to 1000. Max can do it. Most other people cannot handle that, and that's what kills everyone that's in it. I don't want to say that. That's what like knocks them. That's why they can't perform in that car, because it's just too difficult. And I think we've kind of gone off a cliff with that. And I don't even know if the car is super fast. Like, have they just gone too fast and it's just undrivable for anybody now? Is it that the car has lost some of its performance but maintained its difficultness to drive? I don't know. I don't even know if the mechanics and engineers know. I'm sure they do, but like, whoa, have we lost it? And that's like a serious management issue, that it's been allowed to get to that point. I don't understand how for years, like, I guess because there was a point where Checo was closer, it's really only been the past 2 and a bit season, or a season and a bit, where Checo hasn't been performing, really, because he was close enough for those other years. But like, I don't necessarily think the McLaren way of having like 2 number ones, or even like the Ferrari way right now of having 2 number ones, is the way to go. But to have such a clear divide in year 1 and 2, to the point that like you obviously only even care about the drivers' championship. Like, I think they're happy to win the constructors, but their focus has been on the drivers' championship. Let's be like clear, because this is the way it goes down. And even if it didn't go down this way, what happens when Max leaves, which we'll touch back on later. But like, you can't build your whole thing around one driver to the point that nobody else can drive the car and expect that to work semi-long term. It doesn't. It just doesn't. And I think the fact that we got there has like shown issues with conflicting interests that we've seen for the past year and a bit, that became really clear when the Christian Horner allegations came out. And it seemed that like the Austrian side wanted him out and the Thai side didn't, and so he stayed. And there was even issues with like Helmut Marko. There's issues with Max himself, and the Verstappen's being unhappy. There's a big power struggle in there. I think that is like really messing with their ability to make decisions. I think there's even a power struggle between like the team and the owners, like the people funding the team, as we can see with like maybe Honda had something to do with Yuki moving up. There's like too many cooks in the kitchen and no clear decision maker, as much as like Christian Horner and Helmut Marko like want to deem themselves as the decision maker. But even when you have those two, somebody's got to be the real decision maker, and I don't know who it ever was. I don't know if it's ever like who's really pulling the strings there and who should be, because I think it's got to come down to one person. Like, say what you want about Mercedes and some of their things, but they have, like, Toto is both a team principal and has stake in the company, and they're able to make decisions and move forward. I think that was also like even an issue with Ferrari in some days, like differences between the team principal, how the team principal wants it to be run versus how like Ferrari wants it to be run, which caused like this sort of fear spiral under Matteo Binotto, to the point that everybody was like far too stressed to do anything, which is we're picking back up with Fred Vasseur. Everybody's becoming a bit more comfortable. But that's because like Fred is the decision maker. See, like there has to be a decision maker, and even I think there's like 10 decision makers in Red Bull, and you can't make a decision that way that makes any sense. And when it's also from that perspective, and you're gonna be like, if you're only thinking about money, of course you're gonna like just keep building the faster car that only Max can drive until it doesn't work that way. But then like this happens, and this is like everything. This like what. And I think we're getting to the point where well, for one, that's not functional. And Max Verstappen is like deserves to be in a functional environment. So what happens when he leaves? Because I think like each day we're getting closer to that, just from the sense of like, yeah, he's liked something that has hinted that he's unhappy with this, not because he doesn't want Yuki as his teammate, because he's unhappy with management. Like, if the car's not fast, if the team doesn't work, why would Max stay? Literally, why would Max stay? And what happens to Red Bull when Max leaves? They have nothing. Oh my God, when Max Verstappen leaves, they have nobody who could drive the car. They're actually screwed. They're already screwed, but like literally, because This is something else I hadn't noted down. Like, why would any junior driver trust Red Bull ever again? For one, they've already had issues where they signed too many people and then they cut all these people and now they're like lost. And then you do become a junior and what, you're stuck in the sidelines for years, and then you finally get moved up if you do, and you, even then they don't have a place for you and you're like a reserve driver coming on sometimes, and then they move you up too early and you can't drive the car and they kill your career. Why would anybody ever sign to be a Red Bull junior driver? So for one, why would anybody move up? Like, they have Arvind Lindblad. Maybe he'll be our savior. But like, what next? What after that? Why would Yuki want to stay? Why would Isaac Hydra want to stay? Why would Liam Lawson want to stay longer than this? Like, what's the plan? I don't think there ever has been a plan. I think, well, it seems that they think maybe Arvid Lindblad could be the next Max Verstappen, and that's what they're moving forward on, and that's what they're betting on. But like, if this is how it works, like, why wouldn't, if they take any of the similar directions, it's just going to kill his confidence as well. It's like, honestly. Okay, so like, imagine if Yuki doesn't knock it out of the park, then who? Then who's there? I don't know, maybe the car will be a bit better under the next regulations, but there's no guarantee. And even if that is true, there's no guarantee that anybody again would want to stay, especially Max Verstappen. Then you lose your star driver, then what? Then like, okay, maybe Yuki gets some performance, he can stay, he's decent. But if he doesn't, then what? Like, what, you can move Isaac Hadjar up? You're going to move Arvind Lindblad up? And then who's back in the V car? Like, don't talk about Daniel Ricciardo. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo would do any better. He was not driving at Red Bull in these regulations. Like, it's not. He also, I think, had his confidence killed many steps along the way. I don't think there was full trust in that relationship because he left. I don't know. Like, I really don't know where they go from here. I think they just gotta pray that you can get something out of the car. Pray that next year the car is more drivable. But like, this year's already a wash. Like, they're not placing anywhere decently in the constructors. I'm like sold on that. Max, I don't know. I never doubt him, but like, really, is he gonna be champion? I don't think so. I think they've just got to move on. Oh, just give up. Try again next year. Get new management. Figure something out. Buy some people out of their stocks and whatever, of their shares. Like, it's not working. It's hilarious because if you asked me about this like 2 years ago, I don't think I would have believed we would be here. It was always a concern of like, what happens after Max, but like, I thought Red Bull would be dominant in these whole regs, and I thought that Max would stay this long and probably stay after that, because why not? But like, why? Why would he stay? I don't know. I pray for the drivers and their mental health, and I am, to be honest, kind of enjoying the self-inflicted downfall of them, just so long as they don't take down all those drivers, because they don't deserve that. Be interesting to see how this unfolds. Let me know your thoughts, and I don't know, well, I'll be back if there's any more breaking news. If not, I'll see you for the Japanese Grand Prix, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Another reminder, if you watch this but you only want to listen to it, this is available on podcasting platforms. And if you are listening to this on podcasting platforms but you'd like to watch it, it is also on YouTube. So please, if you're interested, follow, subscribe, like, comment, rate, share, all of the things, and I will see you soon.